So let's talk about the security policies and how are we going to do that? Okay. Definition of security policies. A security policy is a formal document that defines how an organization protects its information, assets, systems, and networks. It outlines rules, responsibilities, and procedures to ensure confidentiality, integrity, and availability. I think for all of these videos, we just have only started with this information and ended with the diagram where we talked about the security measures. A security policy is a document. It really defines how an organization really protects its assets, its information, its systems, and networks, right? So if you have a small company, it's not big of a deal, right? You have some, you know, data and you're going to be working with it. But if they're big organizations like Google, who manage the whole web system, so there's a lot of data. They have different branches. There are different departments for managing data. Everyone is signing up to every other website. I think every fraction of a second, we are all connected to this internet. So it's important to really draw some line between browsing and the security measures, right? We need to have some formal document to explain that how we are going to really protect the data that our users are giving us. Although there are really, allegations about privacy thefts and use data thefts and data privacy regulations. There are really questions about them for these big companies like Google and OpenAI, etc. But still, a security policy in theoretical terms is a document which really defines how a company protects its information, its assets, its networks, and its systems, right? Networks in which the users of the company or this organization of this app are really communicating information. The purpose are to prevent unauthorized access and data breaches, ensure compliance with legal and regulatory requirements, right? Um, like the data where it is going, right? So if an application is used by some company, for we are really logging into websites and they are using our information. So if they are really not ensuring the security of our data, how can we trust them? How can the government allow them to, run uh, on the country, right? If they are really breaching the data, right? These days there are really complications about data breaching from these companies as the government, but still in the theoretical terms, we need to comply with legal and regulatory requirements, establish guidelines for employee behavior in handling sensitive data, right? And then we have types of security policies. So there were three purposes: unauthorized access to data breaches and compliance and guidelines. So this is where we're studying security for organization, right? Types of security policies. And for enterprise information security policies, like big companies, a high-level policy that sets the overall security direction for an organization, define rules and responsibilities of security, CISO, IT terms, and employees. Of course, there are going to be teams which are going to make sure that the policy works as expected. There are some types of the security policies and there are some regulations of the security policies. Um, there are people involved in security, enterprise security policy, establish general security requirements for all systems, right? If someone is a guard in a company, right, and he's really managing the CCTV, all the footages, and maybe he's a supervisor, how can we make sure that only the guard has access to the necessary things, which are, the necessary cameras, which are really essential for the, keeping track of who is coming to the organization, who is going out, and how the employees are kind of using this CCTV footage to kind of analyze stuff, right? So you should have general security requirements for all employees, aligned with business objectives and legal regulations, right? All employees must use multi-factor authentication for system access. It is really, we're not employees, but we are just users of these organizations, and still we are doing this. Google's security policy mandates that all employees complete cybersecurity training and use hardware security keys for authentication, right? They should have these security keys and they should have some cyber security training. The big companies also do that. Ensure the policy aligns with NIST, ISO 2701, and GDPR. regularly view and update policies to address new cyber threats. So GDPR, we also talked about in requirement engineering chapter. So these are three standards that any organization needs to follow for security, ISO 27001. Then we have issue-specific security policy, ISSP, a policy that addresses specific security issues like password policies, acceptable use policies. Like acceptable use policies mean who can use, which thing. It was the principle in which we talked about the least common principle and fail-safe defaults. I think that one. It really refers to this mechanism. Yeah. Okay. And then we have social media policies, define acceptable and unacceptable behavior, specifies penalties for violations, establishes security controls for production. Uses must not store sensitive company data on personal USB drives. There was a meme I saw that they were saying that an employee was it was an employee meme in which the employee was saying that I'm putting the sensitive data on of the company on on ChatGPT just so that it can generate an email for me so that I can send it back, right? It's just the meme that the employee was kind of using the ChatGPT to kind of get the response, but they were just staking the sensitive data of the company, right? So they shouldn't use any sensitive data and they not expose any sensitive data to on these type of platforms. Tesla's ISSP prohibits employers from using unauthorized USB devices to prevent intellectual property theft, right? Which means you own something and then someone else go on having it. So that's the intellectual property theft. Enforce strong password policies, minimum length, complexity, expiration. Use data loss prevention tools to prevent unauthorized data transfers, right? Means data transfers shouldn't be unauthorized within the organization and outside the organization. System-specific security policy, SSP, a technical security policy that applies to individual systems, databases, firewalls, and applications, specifies configuration settings and access controls for IT systems. IT teams see all of that, defines encryption, logging, and backup procedures, establishes patch management and security updates. So in case of any problem, they all need to be configured in these technical details. All database records must be encrypted using AES encryption. AWS security policy requires data encryption and multi-region backups to protect cloud workloads. So if some workload happens, they don't have data, they can just back it up. Use firewall rules, intrusion detection, and access controls for system protection. Implement zero trust architecture to show least privilege access. Okay, so this was our three types of the security policies. We have enterprise information security policy, we have issue-specific security policy, and we have system-specific security policy, right? And now we are going to implement security policies. How do we make one? How do we implement it? Policy development lifecycle. First of all, we have something called policy development lifecycle. Then we have and then we have policy enforcement methods. Right, 2 points in the implementation. First of all, how we're going to make the policy, and the second point is how we are going to implement the policy. Assess risk. Identify the threats, the inside threats, the malware, and the social engineering. What type of threats can occur? Right. The define objectives. Define the objectives of your security policy. Of course, they're going to be protection. Draft policy. Establish clear security rules and responsibilities. Right. Just write down all your thoughts and responsibilities and rules that you think are better for the organization, and it should really align with the organizational goals. Communication and train employees, conduct cybersecurity awareness training, monitor and enforce use SIEM security information and event management to track violations, review and update regularly, modify policies based on new attack trends, right? So you need to make one, you need to assess the risk, then you need to define objectives, you need to draft policy, communicate, monitor and enforce. These are security information management system to really track violations and then review and update regularly. And important thing is enforcement methods. For the technical, firewalls, IDS, IPS, and endpoint protection, administrative controls are within the organization, security training, audits or compliance checks, physical controls, security cameras, and biometric authentication. That's how you implement the security policy. Again, all the same things. New policies focus on cloud workload security and access control. Enterprise information, overall organization security network, and issue-specific means focus rules for passwords, AUP, etc., system-specific technical settings and configurations. This is another topic called cybercrime, and in the next one we are going to do this interesting one.